welcome to our podcast called Cx7, or Candid Conversations with Content Creators Concerning Common Culture. But we're calling it Cx7 because that rolls off the tongue a lot easier. I'm one of the hosts, Claire.
And I guess I'm the other host. I'm Zach.
Hello, Zach.
Hello.
And we are going to be talking about all sorts of things related to content creation from a faith-based perspective. We are both rather conservative, traditional Christians, Bible-believing Christians, and that shows up a lot in our own content. And we want to talk about how we navigate the modern world in relation to this sort of stuff. So we're going to start by talking about, when does content turn from being a good story, writing a good story, to preaching your message at the expense of the story?
There's a fine balance to hit there, because on the one extreme you have where it's just a story, it's no substance to it, which that's fine. That's fine for like a Saturday morning movie, I suppose. You just watch it for fun. It's there. It's all right. You watch it, you go through it, you learn nothing. There is nothing. It's just entertainment.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And then you get to the other end of the spectrum where you feel like you're sitting there being scolded for an hour.
Yeah. Yeah, that's what I noticed in a lot of popular Christian media. Pureflix, and other studios. Now, Pureflix has come out with some things that I enjoyed, and I didn't feel like was like overly preachy, or the preaching is actually added to the story. But there have been some things that I've watched and like, this is kind of lame. The story is not good. It feels kind of contrived, and
that's a really hard one to hit, where it actually adds to the story.
Mm-hmm. Yes, and I think it can be done, but it's really hard to do.
I find 90% of the time preaching in media, in Christian media especially, is like a bad song in the middle of a movie. Most of the movie might be just fine, and then you suddenly get to a song that contributes nothing to the movie, adds nothing to the story, does nothing, and by the end of the song, you're just like, oh my gosh, just move on.
So are you talking about the later edits of Return of the Jedi? Is that what we're talking about?
As far as I remember, let's not get into that.
Yeah, we're good with that. This is talking about Christian media here. I mean, we could talk about this.
I was thinking more of the pod race from episode 1, if you want to go there.
I mean, there's a lot to be said about the prequels, but but one of the things that like kind of really like grinds my gears, to be colloquial, I really have a lot of issues with the whole God's Not Dead franchise for this very reason. Now, especially the second one. So I am a teacher.
I have to ask,
yeah.
Have you seen the second one?
I have seen clips from the second one. I've not seen the full thing, but I've seen enough of it to kind of get irritated with it. And
I've seen the first one. I know next to nothing about the second one, so
yeah.
Most of what's going on here, you're going to have to draw me into that.
Yeah, well, we don't have to cover like this one that thoroughly, because I mean, again, I haven't seen the full thing. But what irritates me is that it's all about a teacher mentions the word Jesus and then gets into a whole court case. And as a teacher in a public school, I've mentioned the word Jesus countless times. In fact, I have borderline shared my faith. If the student asks, I can answer a question. And there's no issues.
Good for you.
Yeah. Yes. And there's no issue legally. If a student asks a question, I can answer a question. I just can't start proselytizing and treating my classroom as a church service, because I mean, that's not my job. My job is to teach them music. I'm a music teacher. That's my thing. And if I start that, actually, I can't get my job done if I'm just constantly talking about Jesus. Now, if we do like a sacred piece of music, then I'll go on. But that film kind of irritated me because of just how overly dramatized this whole thing was, as if
Mhm.
there aren't legal companies and people who actually represent Christians for like in the public sector for that very reason. If something like that happens, there are very powerful law firms who will come to your aid, and sometimes for free. They'll help you, especially if it's a high enough profile case. But that's one of the examples of like preachy Christian media that I'm just like, if it gets you into like an us versus them mentality to a point like that. Now they're to a point. Yeah, we have Christians and we have non-Christians, and there is a sense of us versus them, but it's not. It gets to a hostile point. I don't think it should be hostile.
Yeah, I mean, the goal of a Christian isn't to become hostile to the world around them.
Yeah.
The
Or
goal is to lead. Their goal is to lead more people to faith.
yeah, and the way they caricature the atheists,
Oh my
it
gosh.
makes me uncomfortable. Like if I watch that with an atheist, I would just be like, I am sorry. That just sucks. Because I don't like it when Christians are portrayed in media as like idiots or evil, because that, yeah, of course I'm a Christian. I don't like being portrayed like that, and I'm sure
Of
atheists don't
course
either.
not. Yeah.
Um, and so that there's a lot of stuff like that popular Christian media that it gets me a little. Now again,
I
there
mean,
are
don't get
some
me wrong.
Christian
I can laugh.
films. Oh, go ahead.
Don't get me wrong. I can laugh at like jokes about
Oh
Christianity
yeah.
to an extent, but
Hmm.
when it comes to just downright hatefully making fun of Christians, then it's like, what's the point?
Yeah.
What are you doing?
Yeah.
This isn't funny.
Yep. And
This is just
the same can go with really any
nasty.
group. Because yeah, you can. It's good to be able to laugh at yourself,
Mhm.
but jokes usually come out of truth too. So if we're like making a caricature that is not even close to true, like close to reality, then it's, unless you're like purposefully doing it, like showing the exact opposite of what something is for a comedic effect, I think
Slightly,
it just becomes like, that's not funny because the joke doesn't land because it's not based in a bit of truth.
yeah. Slightly off topic. Something that drives me crazy.
Hmm.
The term libtard. That
I
is completely unrelated.
Yep.
Let's get back to the topic.
I mean, any sort of like, even if you feel like views are completely off the rails, that's not helpful. That's not a helpful term at all. But so we have like the
Yeah,
whole
yeah.
Christian mainstream media.
Anytime you start to get mean and nasty with another group of people that you might
Yeah.
not necessarily disagree with, you're not going to bring those people to your side.
No.
You are going to drive them further and further
Mhm.
away from you.
Yeah. Now that's not to say we can't have like conversations in which we disagree. I think that's important, and I think we've lost that art of being able to civilly disagree.
Oh my gosh. I miss being able to have like not I guess I guess argument isn't necessarily the right word, although it
Mhm.
used to be, but civil conversations.
Yeah, and I think the art, like the term argument, has such negative connotations now. Like we should be able to argue. We are getting way off topic
Mhm.
though.
Just a little bit, just a little bit.
so we got
To be
like
expected.
popular Christian media, and we can also get started on like Christian versions of things. That also really irritates.
Yeah, you know what another term for it is?
Hmm.
Derivatives.
Oh.
Derivative media.
Yes. But yeah.
You know, like when you
Yeah.
make a copy of a key,
Mm-hmm.
but then the copy is always worse?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's what derivative Christian media is. That's one thing that I wanted to actually get into
Uh-huh.
because I did have this whole rant about it, and I don't know if I'll remember the whole thing or not, but it had something to do with trends.
Mm.
Because one thing that does drive me crazy is when Christian media jumps on trends.
Yes.
And that's how you get like cringy rapping preachers and whatnot. But
Oh
they,
gosh.
like the problem with that is it can take quite a while to produce a piece of media. So if Christian media is just following trends,
We're always behind
then
the trends.
they're always behind the trends.
Yeah. And we
They
notice
see
this.
something and they think, oh, that looks so cool. Everybody thinks it's cool. Oh, we could make something out of that. And then you make something out of it, and then the trend is gone.
Especially in this internet meme age, things like
Things
they
come and go
they go out of
so fast.
yeah. They get out of fashion like within minutes.
Memes go in and out of fashion like yesterday's underwear.
Yeah. Okay. That's one way of putting
Just
it.
ignore that.
But yeah,
I
and the
apologize.
thing about the thing about like Christian versions of things, we as Christians, as being, I mean, all humans are created in the image of God, and we're made to be creative people. We're made to imitate God's own creativity in our own way as well. And the fact that we Christians especially are not on the forefront of innovation in the arts, that actually wasn't always the case. It was the music that you had, like, I'm talking about music mainly, but because that's my expertise, but the music that we have back in like the Baroque, Renaissance, Baroque, and classical periods were all based on the church. All the innovation was in the musical innovation, at least in Western culture, was in the church. And some of the most amazing music were written for masses. And you can just if you sit in a cathedral, if you've ever gone to one of these masses by Mozart or by Bach, you sit in a cathedral where they would have been performed, and it's like it's glorious. There's really no other way to put it. It's just glorious. And
This is where you have all the expertise.
Yeah, but that can go with all sorts of art. Like the art in the Renaissance was usually faith-based art, and it was
quite frequently
amazing stuff. And now you have all the leading artists, be it music, be it like visual art, be it film especially, that are not faith-based, and they're very secular, and they put out some amazing stuff, and then Christians are like, whoa, that's so cool, we want to do that, and then we just try to do that, and then we're not the ones, we should be the ones innovating.
It's not so much, oh, that's so cool, I want to do that, and I guess it's more, oh, everybody thinks that's cool, we should do that.
That too, yeah, it's definitely, I think it has a little bit of both, but yeah, that's definitely a thing that happens.
But once again, coming back to the key analogy, when you try to make a copy of a key, the copy's always worse.
Yep. Yeah, there really should be more innovation in the Christian world, and I think part of it is there's a stigma, I think, for people going into the arts because of who currently controls that world. And so
art is become absolutely totally dominated by leftist culture, and actually that is one thing I also wanted to get into.
Yeah, so when like kids say I want to be an artist, or I want to be a musician, or I want to do this, I want to do that, I mean, yeah, those are hard things to get into in general. But when you have a biblical worldview, that's really hard to get into, because you won't get as many jobs, because they'll find out what you think of, what you believe about certain things. They'll be like, nah, we don't want you here after all. Or it's just hard to get into. And then if you haven't also been exposed to really good art, then people learn through looking at others and analyzing others' art.
And you gotta go looking for really good art nowadays, because a lot of the stuff that gets put out there isn't necessarily, I would argue, isn't necessarily out there because it's good. it's out there because it's industrial, shall we say.
That's a good way of putting it. Because, yeah, you have the giant corporations making these films and this music. And they have formulas down that sell. And that's about it. It's not innovative. It's very just cut and dry.
Once they find the formula that sells, that's the formula they use every single stinking time. And it just keeps going and going and going.
That goes into the Christian music industry, especially.
Oh my gosh. You know something I wanted to bring up, and I really, really hate bashing on specific things.
Yeah.
You know the band Newsboys?
Yes.
I picked them up again recently. I hadn't really listened to them around like in the 90s when I was growing up and they were popular. I picked up a little bit of their stuff. Nowadays I picked some of that up again and I kind of like it. Yeah. It reminds me of some of the other it kind of reminds me of some of the other bands I used to listen to in the day, but they had their own thing going on.
Uh-huh. Yeah, I really like I grew up listening to Newsboys.
And coming back to God's Not Dead.
Oh.
I don't care for their modern stuff. It sounds very, very poppy, I guess you could say.
Yeah. Well, and also they don't have Peter Furler anymore, and he has a very distinct voice and way of doing things. I think that's where their sound really was, and then when he was not part of their group anymore, it's like, yeah, it's different. They're different.
I don't know. I like I said, I don't want to go bashing on them too much because I still like them. I just don't care for their modern stuff quite as much.
I have not listened to much of their modern stuff really. I generally go to their older stuff when I want to go listen to it. Granted, most of the Christian popular music I listen to is the stuff from the 90s and early 2000s anyway. So
I feel like that's the best stuff. I just don't like any of the modern stuff, you could say, I guess, has gone the same direction. The secular not secular like the industrial sound, I guess.
Yeah.
And you know why?
Yeah.
Because it's following the trends.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And yeah, it's just, we could do a whole podcast just on the music itself.
I mean, we might as well.
Maybe we'll put that on the list of things.
I think it is on the list of things.
Yeah, it might be. Yeah, it is. It is.
Our list of things. I'm sorry, it feels like it needs a little intro or something.
I like it. Yeah, should get another theme song just for the list of things.
Who needs a theme song? I could just sing it.
Oh, that's true. Yeah, you'll just sing it. You'll be the theme song. I love it. Now,
it's time to consult the list of things.
Now, Christians aren't the only ones guilty, though, of preaching in their content, though. Definitely not. In fact, I'm thinking that it's kind of almost starting to come full circle where more secular media is following the Christian trend of preaching in media.
You want to know the weirdest thing? I'm going to get in trouble if I bring this up.
Uh-oh. That sounds spicy. Maybe we could just cut this out and have it behind a paywall or something.
I saw something that aggravated me the other day.
Yeah.
You know the show Blue's Clues?
Yes. I think I know what you're talking about.
You know that's still going?
I didn't know it was still going until I saw a story about it.
First off, it's like, how?
I mean, it got off. When Steve left, it was just it was over. When Steve left, I mean, it's just how it is.
Yeah, I actually almost forgot about the show. I forgot that the show existed until it popped up. This little segment from it.
Yeah.
You got this drag queen. Singing into a microphone with a BLM logo on it.
Yeah.
In front of a whole bunch of floats of gay, lesbian, non-binary animals just going all over the place.
Oh, don't forget disabled. I think there was a disabled dolphin.
Well, yeah, of course, because they got to get their representation in.
Yeah.
I mean, there's nothing wrong, I'd say, with representation necessary,
Oh yeah,
but
definitely.
where it starts to cross the line,
Yeah.
this is where we start to get into the preachiness.
Yeah, because
Was there any real point to that segment?
other
What exactly
than
was that?
other than pushing as very specific message.
Mhm.
So that's been a common theme with a lot of stuff, and that's why a lot of shows or films will bomb because people don't like being preached at. They like a good story. Now, when you have a good story, your worldview is going to come through no matter what. And there are stories that I think are really good. I disagree with the worldview, but the storytelling was really good.
May I bring up Fem Ghostbusters, or is that too soon?
I have actually not seen the original Ghostbusters, so I don't have much to say about that.
I have seen the original Ghostbusters. I love the original Ghostbusters. I'm okay with Ghostbusters 2. I saw the trailer for that one, and I was like, this, first off, the humor is like not even close. And then I've heard stories about it, and it's like, Half the time, though, interestingly enough, one thing that I've noticed is it doesn't always come up. It's not just the movies themselves. Half the time, it's in the marketing.
Yes. Yeah, I think...
Interestingly enough. Solo. The Star Wars movie. This time I will call out specifics. Because I might have actually watched that. And then in the marketing, all over the place, oh my goodness, it's the first female droid!
See, I did see Solo. I didn't see much of the marketing, and I did watch Solo. I actually kind of enjoyed it. It wasn't like groundbreaking or anything, but I enjoyed it.
Harley said the same thing. Harley said the same thing, that the movie wasn't that bad, but I got so turned off to it by the marketing. It wasn't even just the first female droid. Lando's pansexual. Oh, they're getting it. Oh my god.
Wait, that was
First off, I think I'm leaking my mic.
It's
second off, it's like I might have watched the movie, but then you started going into all that. I can't imagine how many people you might have turned off.
I know, that's irritating, because I actually, watching the film, that in the film itself, that stuff's not in there. I mean, I don't even remember there being a female droid, but there have been female droids in Star Wars before. There have been, so I don't know. But I mean, the film itself, I mean, again, it wasn't like stellar, but it had its fun moments. It has very swashbuckling
Why wasn't
moments.
it stellar? It's Star Wars.
Oh my gosh. But yeah, speaking of like Star Wars, though, the whole like worldview of Star Wars tends to be a rather new age worldview, like with the Force, like balance and everything. It's a very new age concept, but I really enjoy the stories and Star Wars itself, and even especially with like the latest stuff that's come out, I actually find myself looking back at the prequels with some nostalgia. Which is saying,
I never had a problem with it.
Yeah.
I never had a problem with the prequels, but the interesting thing is, I started with the prequels, so that could be something. There could be something to that.
Yeah, that makes sense. Huh. But yeah, I can't remember what I started with. It was a long time when I first saw them. I don't remember what I saw. And we actually saw the original like cuts of the original film trilogy on my grandparents' laser discs without all the crazy edits. So I've seen the original, so it's great. But
you want to know where I saw them?
Where?
VHS. I borrowed them from my neighbors. The old stuff. Yes. But there it was.
Yeah, my grandparents jumped on the laser disc train thinking that would take off. It did not take off, so. But with Star Wars though, Star Wars has a worldview that I don't agree with. However, I can get into the story because it's not like, it has its preachy moments, like, because there you have like the Jedi Masters teaching to the younger generations, which that has its like, that's I think a version of like preachy that you don't feel like you're being like scolded.
They integrate it into the world.
Yes, and it feels like legitimate in the world, and it's not like
it feels like world building instead of
breaking the fourth wall, looking through the screen like you are the problem. Or you need to do this, you need to do that. But it gives a message without being overly preachy. And again, while I disagree with the overall like worldview of the Force, I find that very antithetical to Christianity in general. But it's a fun story, and I enjoy it. And I love Star Wars. At least I did. Disney.
I think the last thing I enjoyed from them was Rogue One.
I did enjoy Rogue One. That was kind of cool. That was all right. But yeah, oh, of course, I did like Mandalorian. Mandalorian was great.
I haven't seen The Mandalorian.
I actually recommend that one. That was really good. And it just had a lot. It was really good. I liked it. I don't want to give spoilers because it's just good.
I'd take your recommendation if I was giving any money to Disney right now.
That is fair. That is fair.
Actually, to be fair, I probably am giving money to Disney without even realizing it.
Oh yeah. Yeah. And with all these giant corporations, somehow
They're everywhere.
your money is getting into that somehow. But yeah, that I think is an example of preaching done right, honestly. But
interesting.
So we're complaining a lot about this. How do we fix this stuff? How do we as content creators go about making good content with our worldviews, not compromising our worldviews, giving across a message without preaching?
I would say first off, yes, you want to stay on message. But the way you do that isn't by shoving it into everything that you build.
Uh-huh.
Instead, one way to do it is to possibly build around it. I'm not saying that's the only solution because I've seen that done too, and that has turned out poorly.
Uh-huh.
But what I mean is stay uncompromising.
Mm-hmm.
Don't do anything that would say contradict your message. I'm not saying like don't have things happen in the story that say wouldn't be so on message, like wouldn't be Christian approved, but obviously treat them as bad things because bad things happen in the world.
Yes. And we have a whole podcast planned about like adding profanity and whatnot for realism into faith-based media.
That is a topic that's a topic I'm really good and keen on getting to.
Yeah, so that'll be that we're gonna actually have to have as a full separate podcast. So stay tuned, y'all, for that because that'll be fun. And I plan on actually having a friend who has different views about it than I do as a guest. So that'll be fun. That'll be very fun. But what one of the things that I think of that's important when you're creating content, especially when you're storytelling, I think putting the story first is important because I firmly believe that your worldview will come through. Your message will come through. And whether or not like you force it through, because what I've noticed is some of like the best media out there, the best films, the best shows out there actually have a message that they probably didn't intend, but they have a certain worldview that most people have. Yeah.
Yeah, you can kind of tell the worldview of the creator if they're consistent with it, even if they don't even bring it up once in the story.
Or if they don't even realize they have it.
Tell.
They might not even realize they have it, that worldview. Because there's a lot of worldviews that we have in our culture that are so ingrained. Like our current Western culture, there are a lot of worldviews that are based on Judeo-Christian values because that's the culture that we've grown up in. Whether we actively seek that out or not, that's what is common in our culture. So that's going to come through because it's just naturally it's going to come through. but it's really important that the story takes that precedent, so that we're not don't sacrifice the story for, I have to get this specific message across. No, you can do that in like a podcast, like what we're doing. We're getting a certain message across, but we don't care about story because we're not making a story right now.
You can tell when you insert something into the story that you don't believe in.
Yep.
You can. I'm gonna bring up Disney again. Something that I've noticed, a lot of conservatives and a lot of other people have noticed.
Mm-hmm.
Ever notice that every single Disney movie that comes out has the first LGBTQ character in there?
Mm.
Every single one.
Yeah, it's like,
and it's always in the marketing. It's like, may we present the first gay character in a Disney movie.
They have to be careful with that, though, because they do want to market to China.
That's what I was going to bring up. You can tell that they actually do not believe in helping or even representing LGBTQ.
Yeah, they don't care.
And you know how? Because these characters get kind of wiped out.
Yep. They
are
their
in there
tokens.
just long enough that you can have that little LGBTQ moment or whatever in America.
Or any sort of representation moment. It doesn't even have to be that. It's just like any sort of like representation of anything or anybody. They put it to the sidelines.
And then the moment it gets to China, they just edit it out.
Yep. Well, I know we've been ragging on Star Wars and Disney in general, but Disney Star Wars a lot.
Could rag on Disney all day.
Yes.
Disney does a lot of stuff that makes me mad.
Yes. But one of the things that I noticed, like, so when The Force Awakens came out,
yeah,
I didn't hate it. I know it's an unpopular opinion, but I didn't hate it. I didn't love it. It just felt like, okay, they played it safe. They played it very safe with the story and everything in that film.
Yeah.
But I actually started to really like the characters, even Rey. I figured, okay, maybe we could develop her a little bit more. I know a lot of people are Mary Sue, and yeah, she is a Mary Sue. But
Rey wasn't a bad. I feel like Rey wasn't a bad character then.
Yeah.
I feel like she had potential.
She had so much. I mean, all the characters had a lot of potential. I was actually really excited for this new cast of characters. I was really excited for them, and actually, I was really excited for Finn. I really liked Finn. He was probably one of my favorites, honestly.
He had a fun concept.
He did, yes. I love the idea of like that background, like that specific type of character coming in and then like being a stormtrooper and then not. I loved that. And I just loved that character. And I was like, cool. I like it. But because they needed to market in China, they couldn't have him as popular as big.
No.
Which is really unfortunate because I really like that character.
Oh no.
Uh-huh.
Say it ain't so.
I know. But it was really unfortunate because I was like, I really like his character. I legitimately was really sad when like the next film came out and I'm just like, he's boring now. He was cool, and now you made it boring. And like even the actor himself like has complained about that.
What did he do in that movie?
Exactly.
Oh no! I can think of one thing that he did. Of consequence.
He and like that Rose chick went on this trip.
Wait a minute. No. Have you seen episode 9?
Yes, unfortunately.
Phasma come back. The Silver Stormtrooper.
Oh yeah.
She was back?
Wait, I don't remember. No.
Oh.
I don't even know. I only saw it once because it wasn't worth seeing twice.
See it at all.
That's unfortunate.
I've gotten summaries of it from friends, and it's like, wow, that sounds like a really crazy like anime plot.
I think it was a lot of like I think with what was set up in the second one was so bad that they just had to do something, and I think they did okay with what they had, and they're just like, okay, we're just gonna try to tie up this loose end somehow, put a band-aid, we're good, flex tape, boom, we're good. And so they made it like somewhat coherent, somewhat keyword somewhat, but
Yeah.
And but that's another off-topic thing. But yeah, it was.
We're gonna have a lot of those.
That's okay. This was why we didn't do the scripted, because for this reason, so we can just go off. But another the story. You just gotta have a good story. You just gotta have a good story first. That's come first and foremost. Now, another thing that I think that you can explore content with having. I think it actually challenges your own worldview. I think it's important to challenge your worldview to make sure that you know what you believe and you stick with what you believe.
Absolutely.
But you know that what you believe. You don't just believe it because, oh, I grew up with this, I like this or whatever, it makes me feel good. No, you believe it because this is true. I've done the research. I have been challenged. I know it's true. I've went through all this.
The way I like to put it is, you don't just want to believe.
Mm-hmm.
You want to know why you believe what you believe.
Yes, and
if you don't know why you believe, then the moment something comes along to challenge it, you're going to do one of two things. You're either going to have your whole worldview shatter around you, or you're going to do what many people do today and cover their ears and go, "Can't hear you."
Now that overblew your mic. Yeah, that's overblowing your mic. Great impression.
That may not be what you sound like on the outside most of the time, but it is what you sound. Yes, it is. But it's what you sound like on the inside.
Oh gosh.
That's y'all.
But one of the things that I think that is that helps me with my own having my worldview come through in my own story, but also challenging it and being thoughtful with it. A lot of when I write stories, I write characters that I don't agree with. Mm-hmm. I write characters that I'll maybe somewhat agree with, or they'll take something way too far, or they won't go far enough with something, and then I have to put myself into the mind of someone that I don't agree with, and then think, okay, how would someone who firmly believes in this way, how would they react in this situation? So I think that really helps me understand how other people think by, I guess there's lots of speculation, because of course I can't literally enter someone's mind and know how they're thinking, but I can speculate and think, okay, if this was my thought process, how would I write a character to follow along with this thought process? And I find that's really fun too, because one of the things that I realized when I was mainly when I was doing theater stuff, musical theater, I would love playing the character, the villains.
Is this why writing villains is so much more fun than writing heroes sometimes?
I think so. I
have a thought about that. Because when you're writing the hero, a lot of the time you see them as the hero, and the hero is usually somebody who agrees with you.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas the villain is somebody who you got to get into their head a little bit. You got to think about them.
Yeah, you have to figure out why they are the way that they are, because most people believe they're doing the right thing. Most people have good intentions and want to do the right thing, but they have different thoughts on, unless they're an absolute sociopath or psychopath. That's a whole nother thing. But
there's another kind of villain too.
Yeah.
I guess they do kind of lead into the same kind. Is that the thought is most people really hate being wrong.
Yeah.
And so it comes back to that. It comes back to that little impression earlier, when they don't like being wrong, and so when confronted with the idea that they might be wrong, they don't listen. And
that's something anyone can fall into, Christian or not. Woke or not, anyone can fall into that.
I know I've gone there before.
Oh yeah, same. I get confronted with something that I'm maybe I'm wrong, I get defensive. No, I can't be wrong. I can't be. No! Say it isn't so!
Say it ain't so.
But yeah, it's a thing that goes back to we just need to know how to like disagree, how to argue, and argue in the sense of we're having a conversation in which we disagree and we're saying why we disagree and why we think the other person is wrong. And that should be okay to do. It should be okay to say, I think you're wrong. I think you are factually incorrect on this. I think you are objectively incorrect on this. And here's why. And then you can come back and say, well, I think you are objectively incorrect on this, and here's why. And then go out and get a coffee after. Or during. Just go out and get a coffee to talk about this stuff.
Get coffee, it helps.
Yes.
You can soak up all your concerns in a good cup of coffee.
Yes. And then get very animated when the caffeine kicks in.
What do you think I've been doing for the last 10 minutes?
Yeah. But yeah, where was I going with that?
I don't know. We have gotten way off topic once again.
We're still on topic. Mostly.
Are we?
Because we're talking about like things that we don't agree with. And I have that written down in my notes. So we're on topic. But yeah, it's one of the things that the first story I ever wrote, like completely finished. Like I've been writing stories since I was like 12. Not all of them have been finished. But the first one that I ever like wrote and finished is a story called Passing Through the Fire. And it's a pretty dark story. It's got child sacrifice in it, but whatever. But yeah, it's a very dark story. So I explore lots of dark themes in this. I base this culture, this city, they're based off of the ancient Canaanite fertility cults, if that gives you any sort of indication. But part of it is, it's how I frame it. I don't frame this as a great culture, because yeah, they're sacrificing children. That's a problem. And I even have a character who was involved in that process. And so she works in this temple where she actually helps prepare these children to be sacrificed. And it's really dark. And then there's a lot of she grew up in this, and so it's like normal for her. And then just one day something snaps in her and she escapes. And there's that whole redemption arc with her. She's just a minor character. She's not the main character. She's a side character. The main character himself has that moral compass where he sees that and he's like, that's not right. This is definitely not right, because he was one of the kids that was going to be sacrificed but managed to get out. So that was nice for him, I guess. But he's the main character, and he's very jaded and bitter though because of this. And now in all the stuff that I write, there's a lot of fantasy. I mostly write fantasy or science fiction. There is a, I guess, version of Christianity in the world. I don't always talk about it in the stories, but it's just there because I, of course, believe Christianity is true in our world. So in any other world, there's a version or a parallel version of that is true. But in this world, he interacts with people who do believe in that, who are that world's version of Christian. But by the end of the story, he never converts. He doesn't change his mind on that. He starts to question things because, of course, he's growing up around his best friend who is a devout follower of their version of Christ, I guess. But he ends up, spoiler for the whole story that I haven't published yet. But they'll forget about it.
Don't go too deep. Don't go too deep.
I'm keeping it vague. But yeah, he ends up, at the end of the story, he ends up just going off on his own and not fully committing one way or the other. He's like, okay, you believe that. I don't know if this is true. If it is, if there's a God out there, help me, I guess. But I don't know. I'm just going to go do my own thing now. And he just goes off on his own. That's how the story ends. Granted, I have sequels planned, which I only wrote the first chapter of the first sequel, and I have not done anything else with that. I still need to edit the original story, but whatever. But it's clear you can tell what my worldview is by reading that story. And I posted a good majority of the chapters on my DeviantArt page, and I actually had a comment from someone who was an atheist. And this comment said, I may be an atheist, but this is a censored good story. And I'm like, okay.
No. That's how you know. That's how you know you set the right balance.
Yes.
Between. Wait for it. We're right back to the beginning. I'm saying wait for it because I forgot the words I was going to say. Between message and story.
Yes. Yes.
When anybody can enjoy it.
Uh-huh.
It's not just meant for a specific group of people. It's not just meant for Christians and then anybody else is just going to be like, ugh. Or the other way, it's not just meant for woke people to enjoy and then everybody else is just going to tune out.
Yeah.
Anybody can enjoy the story. And as a result, more people are exposed to the message contained within.
Yeah. Then again, this goes for Christians and non-Christians too. If you have a message that you want to portray, don't sacrifice the story for a message. Don't do it.
Then you are sacrificing half your audience.
Or more, if your message is very fringe.
Yeah. There's always that too.
Yeah, so just, I guess one of the biggest takeaway is just make art for art's sake. And your worldview will come through. And again, this goes for Christians. This goes for people who have wildly different views from us. This goes for people who are atheists, for people who are Muslims, for people who are in the New Age, for any sort of people. It's really all about framing and how you portray things. Because if you just go overboard and this is how things are, and yeah, you may fully believe this is how things are. I believe my worldview is how things are, of course.
Yeah.
But it's all how you approach it. You have to have tact, basically. It's important.
That's another beautiful thing about knowing why you believe what you believe.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you know why, then you're not just throwing your beliefs out the window at somebody and saying, hey, this is what I believe. Batting them over the head with it. No, you can work it into your story. And you can rationalize that this is why you believe what you believe. It shows through.
Yep. And people don't get put off by it because of it's just, this is just a preaching under the guise of a story. No, it's a story, a good story that has your message in it.
That just happens to contain a good message. Oh my goodness, people used to be so good at this. What happened?
Well, I think we did come full circle because Christians were following after what the secular world was doing with art, and then we got to follow that, but we got to put our Christian message in it and sacrifice the story. And then now the secular world's coming around. Oh, let's put our message in it and sacrifice our stories too. Well, it comes full circle. We're all sunk. There goes the world. There goes the neighborhood.
Well, considering we've come all the way back to the beginning,
we have. I think that concludes our podcast for today.
It seems like a good time to wind things down.
Yeah. So, those of you who listen, thank you so much for listening to Cx7, or I have to look at this because this is a long, stupid long title. Candid Conversations with Content Creators Concerning Common Culture.
I'm amazed you were able to say that in one shot.
Boom. It's
It'll
all
take me 5.
It's all my diction exercises I do as a singer.
That's why she's the one leading and I'm the one just kind of here.
Well, again, thank you so much for listening, and I hope you tune in next week when we talk about something, and we haven't decided yet, but we'll talk about something.
Don't say next week.
Well, we're gonna try next week. That's the goal.
Are we?
Or a week after. Well, we're
Just say
still
next time. Just say
next time. Next time. We'll get the schedule sorted as we get more into this. But again, thank you so much, and we'll see you next time.
Bye, y'all.
Cue music.